Hey guys, Trickshot726 here, and this is part 4 of 6 in my mini-series talking about how to improve your stop-motion animated videos. This community has grown a ton in the 9 years I've been making animations, and I figured it was time I gave back and helped foster more growth within it. In the past couple of episodes, we talked about how to improve your animations and choreography to increase the quality and believability for your videos. In this episode, we're going to try and further increase that immersion by looking at set design, props, and backgrounds. When I started out, most of my videos were just a plain desk without any props or buildings on it to help convey where the characters were, which is fine. There are huge stop-motion animators on YouTube that work this way and put out amazing content. But from the beginning, I knew I wanted to have that extra layer of realism in my videos. I just didn't know how to do it at the time. Having some sort of set or background can help set the tone for your video. You can instantly convey the tone of your video in the first shot by establishing the environment. Are they in a science lab, an abandoned warehouse, outer space, or just good old classic New York City streets? It might seem simple, but establishing the environment is going to help pull people into the world you're creating that much more. You can use props to add to the environment as well. Adding crates to a warehouse or giant cryo chambers in a lab will help sell the believability of the environment and keep it from looking bland or empty. You can also use the props in action and choreography of your videos as well. Whether they throw someone into a bunch of crates or if they grab a hammer off a table and wield it as a weapon, props are going to be a great thing to add to your environment when pulling it together. Just remember that anything you leave in the shot is a choice. You can add or subtract anything you'd like from the real environment you are working with to try and craft your image that you're looking for. Whatever you decide to create or not create for a background is a choice. Using the natural environment and placing your characters in the real world as action figures is just as much of a choice as building a city for them to live in. Regardless of which route you choose to take, you should still be intentional with what you put in the shots. No one wants to see your dirty socks laying around in the background. Some action figures come with props, which is always helpful, but oftentimes you're going to end up wanting or needing some other props as well. 6-inch figures can be hard to find props for since there isn't always stuff available in 1/12 scale. The key is to know where to look. The dollar store surprisingly has some things that can work. The Army or Ninja toys that have there sometimes come with accessories that fit 1/12 scale figures. Hobby Lobby and other craft stores usually have small props and accessories for dollhouses that work great as well. They also have a ton of items that can be repurposed into the 1/12 scale items, which leads me into my next point. Don't limit yourself into looking things specifically made for action figures. There are so many other things you can utilize, you just need to look at the world a little bit differently. This trash can, it's a pencil holder. This chair, it's a phone rest. These string lights, a little big, but yeah, they'll definitely work. If you're ever unsure what will fit in scale, use your hand as a reference point. You can measure your hand to see where 6 inches land on it, and then you always have an easy reference point if you find something that could potentially work when you don't have a figure with you. Obviously, you're not going to be able to make an entire city to scale for your characters. No one has room to put 10-foot skyscrapers throughout their house. So, at some point, you're going to have to cut some corners and pull off some camera tricks to convey what you need to. Like I've said in previous episodes, the audience will only see what's on camera. Anything that's off screen is an unknown to them. You can use this to your advantage by using a lot of clever angles and framing to give the illusion that your characters are somewhere they aren't. You can also trick people's minds into filling in the gaps for you. You can give the illusion of a space by adding 1 to 2 key props and some good lighting to set the tone for the environment. People's minds will naturally fill in the gaps of what's missing, and most of the time they won't even know they're doing it. For example, in a lot of my videos, the characters move throughout an entire city and don't just stay on one block. Now, obviously, I don't have room to have multiple city blocks set up in my house. It's not that big. But what you can do is when they push each other or fly into another area of the city, take down the old set and put up new buildings or rearrange the same buildings in a different layout so that it looks like they moved to another area. That way when it's put together and you have the video finished, it's just going to look like they moved to another area and no one's going to see that it took you 15-20 minutes to take down all the buildings and put up the new ones as well. It takes a little bit longer, but it helps give you a fuller and richer world that's bigger than just the desk that you have at your disposal. One way you can try and create an illusion of some characters being in a place that they're not is with height. Even if you have a tripod that can go up a couple feet, it's going to be annoying to have to hold characters off screen or use giant flight stands to get them in the air so they look like they're flying. A lot of you have seen the fire escape piece that I have used in a couple of different videos. That's something I got from Hobby Lobby when it was like $30. It was supposed to be for your house and using as a shelf, and I was like, no, this is perfect scale, so I ended up grabbing that. That's an example of repurposing stuff that's meant for houses or decorations or anything else to make into 6-inch scale stuff. But anyways, obviously fire escapes in real life are like 10 feet off the ground at least, right, for the lowest part. And I wasn't looking to hang this giant heavy metal fire escape off of 1-inch foam board. It would take a lot of reinforcement and it would just be very awkward. So what I decided to do instead was just film it at angles that it looks like it's a lot higher than it is. Put it next to buildings with windows or roofs so that it looks like it's a couple feet off the ground, at least in real life, but a couple stories off the ground so it's higher up. And nobody's the wiser. You can't really tell that it's only maybe a couple inches off the ground in real life. But because everyone knows what fire escapes are and how they usually are positioned, no one questions it and everyone just assumes, oh, they're higher up right now. So that's the kind of thing you can do to just use people's prior knowledge and expectations to your advantage. Work smarter, not harder. All this other information is useful, but you guys probably want to know how to build a set, right? There are a ton of different ways you can make sets. I know some people use green screens to a really great effect, but I haven't messed with it at all, so I'm probably not the best authority on that matter. The one thing I do have to say for green screens, though, that I've noticed is make sure you change the background when you cut to a different shot. If you have two different people talking to each other and the background looks exactly the same between them, it's going to look like something's off. Some people might not be able to tell what exactly is the issue, but they're going to know that there is an issue. So make sure if you only just have the one background, at the very least you zoom in or something so that it doesn't look like everyone's standing in the exact same spot. When I started out, I used to have old shoe boxes or shipping boxes and covered them in these patterned craft paper. It's simple, cheap, and effective, and you can find the craft paper for like 80 cents at each one of your local craft stores. But then I decided to take a note out of the ACBA playbook and started learning from the dial structure guys and some of their videos. If you're looking for some more in-depth tutorials on how to make buildings like this, I would check out Al Figures videos on YouTube. He has a whole series of figures in action tutorials and quickies talking about how he makes his amazing sets and dioramas, and I definitely recommend it. That's what I used when I started out as well. Check him out. Tell him Trickshot sent you. I don't think he'll know what that means, but it'll be fun. A lot of the people that make dioramas use the Foamular insulation foam that you can get like Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, or any home improvement store you might have near you. They usually have smaller 2-foot by 2-foot sheets for like $10, but you can also get huge 8-foot by 4-foot sheets for like $25. You get a ton more foam with them, and you can use it for multiple building sets. The only thing is transporting it can be tricky because it's like a huge brick wall. I'd recommend bringing like an X-Acto knife or something to cut the foam so you can have it in a couple smaller pieces to make sure it fits in your car. There are a number of different tools that you can use to cut the foam. I used a simple X-Acto knife to create the dungeon set you see here, but that took forever to do. I made like 10 walls, and it took, I want to say, like 2 months to make all of them. I do not recommend using it this way. Since then, I've gotten like foam cutters, and it's 1,000 times easier, like no joke. It slices through the foam like butter, and it takes a fraction of the time to do it. They have a bunch of different sizes of hot foam cutters as well, so you can use it for just getting the big sheets cut. You can use it for detail work. You can use them for a ton of different things. Highly recommend it, and they're not that expensive. Before you actually even start cutting, though, I would recommend creating some sort of blueprint or a game plan for yourself. As you can see here, I like to draw out what I want to do and then go over it later and put rough estimates of what I want to use for the size. Having a ruler is going to be super helpful when you're sketching, cutting, or whatever, just so you can get a better feel of how big you want your set or building to be. Since most figures that I use at least are in 6-inch scale, I try and make sure that the door is about 7 inches tall, so most people can fit through that. Obviously, bigger characters wouldn't be able to. And then I also try and make sure that any panels, doors, windows, or anything are at least 3 inches off the ground, so it's at least 3 feet off the ground. Other than that, everything else is fair game. Look at a ton of different buildings in real life, in cities, online, or the cities near you, and just take pictures of the buildings that you think would look cool in a video and try and mimic that to the best of your ability. As of right now, most of the buildings I use are individual, and I just do the front, 2 side walls, and a roof. I don't usually do a back because it's not going to be visible at all, and I don't need to. As for like the interior sets I have, like the science labs, warehouse, or what have you, I usually do those all separate panels so that it's easier to store and I can just take it apart easily and set them back up easily. That way I don't have giant 3-foot interior sets that I have to store on top of each other somewhere. This way it's just a bunch of 1-inch foam panels that I can easily store in a closet without them being in the way. But having more modular sets like that is very helpful, not just for storing, but also for filming, because now I can rearrange the walls, I can make things look differently and place them in unique ways to convey more space besides just the standard box. Lastly, I use acrylic paints to paint the sets, and so far it's worked out great. Paint rollers are also super helpful too, but you can use brushes just as easily, but the rollers make the painting process a lot faster. You can use sponges, rocks, paper towel, and a whole lot of other tools to give your sets more texture to them. If you use the rocks on the foam before you paint it, it'll mar it a little bit and make it look more old and worn. So whenever you're going on like a walk or something like that and you see a cool rock that has a lot of different like edges to it, pick it up. Maybe you can use it for a video. And those are the basics on building sets in environments for your stop motion animated videos. This was just a quick run through of all of the ideas and concepts you'd want to use and the tools that I've used in the past as well. But there are tons of other more in-depth videos talking about each one of the processes and how to do it step by step as well. There are countless of other methods you can use to create the environments for your videos. These are just a few that I've used primarily in my time making sets and videos. You can turn almost anything into a background. You just need to keep your eyes peeled and open your mind to the possibilities. I hope these tips and tricks helped you guys out, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video. Bye!